Hello and welcome in Under the Talk podcast. As after a long time, as it was announced, one of the topics we're gonna present today. I said you're gonna find out why I said is the differences between stripping in Europe and stripping in USA, differences in payments, maybe clients, or whatever difference they are. We're gonna discuss today. And I have a small surprise to you. That's why I said we, because I found a person. She's a dear friend of mine who gonna co-host this podcast with me, and she is also a stripper. So let me introduce you, my dear friend Maiken.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very good, actually.
Good to have you here.
Very good to be here. I think it's amazing that we're doing this, bringing some awareness to this taboo of a subject.
Yes, I think it's important, especially from us. As I mentioned, you were a stripper, and I was a stripper, so I were a stripper. So it is for us, as we discussed before, it is important to bring this awareness that we are also normal people who just chose a different profession than 90% of other people, or 99, and we just enjoy doing that, and it's nothing weird in that.
I agree with you. I think the funny thing is that whenever we tell people that we are or were strippers, they look at us like we're prostitutes and walking on the street corner.
Which is also nothing wrong in being prostitute. Right now, the nice word for that is being an escort.
An escort, that's right. That's actually a beautiful word. Um, but I think people forget that we are people who wake up, go to work, pay our bills, go to sleep.
Also taxes.
Also taxes, yes. Also taxes.
That's for government that we don't avoid anything.
That's a legal bit.
Exactly. So, because I know you, people who are listening, they don't. So let me ask you about how was your story into getting into stripping business.
So I am currently 24 and I started stripping when I was 18 years old. So I was very, very young. I started an apprenticeship doing my degree, and I figured that the salary for a regular apprentice is not very high. So I talked with a friend who was a stripper. She was a stripper for a private company. And she was like, "Oh, you should start doing this. I make so much money." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." Because I grew up in a very religious household. So that was definitely not going to be a thing for me. But, she kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I was like, all right, why not? One, like, audition and like, we're not going to get anywhere. I had very low confidence. And then all of a sudden it blew up, and I was working 3 different jobs at one private company and then 2 different clubs all at once. And then I quit like 3 years later because I finished my degree. And I started making grown-up money.
Grown-up money.
Yeah.
Which was in the beginning probably very hard because it's a step down.
It really was. It really was a step down. Also, I quit because I moved away from the 2 clubs that I worked at. I worked at 2 very competitive clubs just across the street from each other.
Which we talked about before in the pre-recording that they were competitive, but it wasn't any policy against that, right?
No, there was no policy against working for a different club, not even a competitive one. I just had to make it work schedule wise. In one of the clubs we were scheduled, like, you had to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's it. Everything else would be kind of just walking in and be like, "Hey, I'm bored. Can I work?" And the other club, you had a fixed amount of hours that you had to work a month. And if you didn't make those hours by kind of, when we were getting at the end of the month, the manager would be like, "Hey, you kind of need to step out of the game."
I understand. So now we're getting into the major differences. So because we are in Europe, you're from Denmark, then we have in Europe the what's sort of called champagne system,
Hmm.
right? So how does it work exactly? And like you said, you had in one club you had to work your hours, what kind of sounds weird in a way. Like, yeah, I'm a stripper and I have a schedule, so I need to be from 7 at the PM at the club because I need to work my hours. I'm kind of
Yeah,
behind. That's kind of sounds weird, but I get it.
it does sound weird, but it also sounds like any other regular job, which is exactly what it is. But the champagne system, as you just so gracefully mentioned, is is a system where you're guaranteed your salary. You're guaranteed the money that you get each month. Whether it being from the club or being from a client, it's completely up to you and how well you do your job. Because if you, let's say you have a slow night or a slow month, and you didn't make the money that you were promised, then the club will go in and pay your salary. However, if you make that amount of money in tips from the client, the club pays nothing because you've already made your salary. And usually the club would never really have to pay anything because you made way more than what your salary was, and that was considered tipping, and that was yours to keep, and you didn't even have to tax that.
All right. I mean, you didn't have to theoretically, right?
No,
Because
you didn't. Anyone is allowed to receive 500 crowns a day as a gift without having to
okay,
tax it.
okay, then 500 crowns a day, that makes you roughly, let's say, 15. You could get 15,000 a month crowns without paying taxes out of it,
Yeah,
which is around $2,000 for other people who are listening, so they have a perspective
yeah,
without actually checking how much Danish crown is.
yeah.
So 2,000 $2,000. That's pretty. I guess that's pretty solid.
And that's in any profession. You're allowed to receive 500 crowns a day.
Yeah, but if you, for example, if you get in the profession, if you are a plumber, uh, for example, and you
Hmm.
work 50%, you have to pay taxes either way, right?
Yeah, yeah, you do. But
It's
we also had to do taxes. We just had to do them ourselves.
yeah, I understand. Okay, so so since we discussed the champagne system in a way like um, you have a fixed salary, or basically club could pay you if they have to, if there was not enough work, but then
Hmm.
most of the times the club didn't have to pay you because you were making your money on your own from lap dances.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. uh, but then from what I heard, because I know also the strippers who were stripping in Poland in champagne system. Basically, the customer were tipping also by buying things for themselves. So, for example, if they took an expensive bottle of champagne, some percentage of that, if you encouraged him to do that, some percentage of that were going into your salary. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. We, I'm not gonna say commission, but it is kind of commission where you get,
Mm-hmm.
again, like the champagne. He buys a 2,000 crown bottle of champagne, and then you get set amount off those 2,000.
Oh.
Usually, it's because that rest like bars at strip clubs, they buy a bottle for, let's say, 100 Danish crowns,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to multiply those 100 by 4 or 5, and that's what the client has to pay, and then one of those percentages will go to you.
I understand. So that's quite fair. I mean, because being in a champagne system, it's more. We'll go to different systems in a second, but it's more about patiently waiting for this one rich client who gonna
Yeah,
give you the big
exactly.
amount of money.
Yeah. It's also very much about creating your own regulars.
Uh, you mean regular people, people who are regulars in the club, right?
Yeah, exactly. But not regulars to the club, regulars to set stripper.
Okay. Did you had that kind of clients?
I did. I had a few regulars, kind of like regulars at a bar who like
Mm-hmm.
walking because Kathy in the bar is working and they really like Kathy because she's nice and she's chatty. We have the same in the clubs,
Okay, that's very interesting.
and
And what
they
was
will wait for you to finish your dance with someone so they can get a dance from you.
just okay? Sorry to refer that to, but it just popped in my head. There's kind of like a stripping girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. I'll take it. And all the girls in the club knows that Jay is my regular, so they're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna push him into anything.
But that's just like very polite thing at workplace to
Yeah, it's
not do,
kind of like
right?
unwritten rules.
But I mean, probably as we discussed before we started recording, you were quite lucky in the club what you were dancing in because it was a good and safe environment, right? So
Yeah.
we we cannot say about all the if in all the clubs are like that, but hopefully it is.
I mean, hopefully. I was so lucky that I had managers who understood that we were human beings. We had house moms. We had bouncers who had our back no matter what. We had DJs who were ready to jump the booth if anything was happening.
That is important to feel safe. Feel safe at work. Doesn't matter what kind of work it is, right?
No, it doesn't. I agree with that.
And one more question: is it about the house mom? So,
Hmm.
I know, but explain to the listeners who is the house mom exactly.
So the house mom is her name is always mom. Always mom, mama, mommy, anything. Her name is always mom, and she's usually a retired stripper, and she's usually retired from said club.
Mm-hmm.
She has an office in the girls' locker room, and mom is the one who takes care of the girls. She's the one who makes sure that we're safe, that we're happy, that we have a shoulder to cry on, anything. And mom is also the only one that we are not required, but that we tip in the club.
Mm-hmm.
We pay mom roughly 50% of what we make that night. 15%, sorry. And she is the one who, like, she takes care of us. She makes sure that there's food. She makes sure there's extra fish nets. She makes sure that there's bobby pins, painkillers, anything that we might need.
So she's basically just a manager of. She's HR department.
She is HR department for strip girls in the locker room. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's the very good to have that kind of person. I mean, you kind of need to have somebody to manage all of that and take care of the girls and take care of the. Basically, the girls are the business in this in the club, so they are
Yeah.
they are the reason that the customers are coming to the club, right?
Yeah,
So you
they
need to
are.
take care of them
Exactly. Having
because
someone take care of your girls will make you more money because the girls will be happier. The girls will feel safe.
so
Um,
if there is somebody who planning to open the strip club, you gotta have a mom.
Get a mom, get a house mom, and make sure she's nice and knows how to cook.